Hey guys, welcome to the Leadership in the Dealership podcast, where we strive to share the latest and greatest trends shaping automotive with today's thought leaders. I'm your host, Danielle Mills Walden. I am so excited to be here today with Elwira Wilczynska, who is the Director of Sales Training at Grande Dealer Group, aka DGDG. So welcome to the show, Elwira.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to chat and share some insights on the business and industry.
Yes, we are so excited for this conversation with you because you are one of our amazing dealer partners. So there's so much that we can get into. But before we get into all of that, I would love if you could share, for our audience a little bit about, your background in sales training and kind of how you got started in all of this.
Sure. So again, my name is Elwira. I work for DGDG. I've been in the automotive space for about 20 years now. I started in the dealership selling cars. Matter of fact, that was majority of my time spent in automotive was selling cars. So training was something that I fell in love with after I figured out that I absolutely love this business. And just like many people, I think when we think about the automotive space and the retail space, I don't know if that's on the roadmap for a lot of people. Like, you don't grow up, say, I want to get in the car business. So like many people, I came in really not having a ton of expectations. I started selling cars when I was 19 years old, and I ended up in a great brand in Chicago. I worked for Mitsubishi dealership. That's kind of how my career started, and spent a lot of time with that group. Several years later, I moved to California and I joined DGDG. I've been on their variable side for 5 years. And then I was asked to join the training department so that we can share the love of the business and the love of the people and serving people with the rest of the organization. So it's been a wild ride. And this year's going to be 20 years in this automotive space.
Oh my goodness, 20 years is incredible. And I just love the fact that, that your dealer group takes so much focus on training, that there's an entire department that's dedicated to that, which is super, super rare from actually what I'm seeing, with the dealerships that, we work with across the country and just from what I've noticed. And I love the fact that that's such a focus for them. But I'm really curious, how do you see kind of like tech influencing training, and like what has DGDG been doing to utilize technology to help enhance what you're doing from a training standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, we can both agree that technology has just significantly impacted sales, especially on the automotive side. It is an industry that is a little bit, late when it comes to progression. So now more than ever, because the business is changing so much and so quickly, technology has a huge impact on the organization, from our training to how we serve our guests and the guest efficiencies. So for us, we have plenty. We try to integrate as much technology as we can, and that in itself is a feat and a challenge. But thinking about having an LMS, right, where our team members can access information remotely, so that there's a lot more flexibilities in training. They can do it from their home. They could do it from their comfort when they have downtime, to be able to access modules, training seminars, pre-recorded videos, resources. So leveraging some of those hubs to kind of house our training is one way we kind of have the outreach for the entire organization. And then when you think about the way we equipped our sales team to be able to provide a world-class guest experience, it was really leveraging, technology, like such as our partnership with Upstart. So when you think about a brand new team member that's never sold cars before, for them to be able to use the tablet for the in-store piece where our guests are coming in, is they have the steps of the sale right in front of them. So even somebody that is brand new to the business has a very, very clear roadmap of what they are supposed to do and what success looks like. So leveraging technology like that, think about today, Danielle, like a guest walks into the dealership, like the last thing they expect is a product specialist to have an iPad or a tablet greet them and check them in for their process, right? For their dealership experience. Leveraging that, and then our sales managers, our leaders in the store also have visibility on, who is in the showroom, what step of the sales process are they in, how easy is it to integrate and walk into a conversation, a warm conversation, because where they're in the process. So definitely leveraging that piece has made an incredible shift and change for us as an organization. And then just communication, right? Like when you think about effective communication, being able to share information the way people consume information is a big piece. So our video team, our incredible video team, being able to put together videos from our leaders to share with the organization and communicate anything that needs to be communicated so that we stay close has been one way that we've used technology to stay close to our teams.
I love that because it's a lot. It's overwhelming when you are new in the industry. And I'm sure, like, from your own experience, when you started in that Mitsubishi dealer in Chicago, I don't know what your training and your onboarding looked like way back then, but, just maybe you could speak on this a little bit. Like, have you noticed that with this process that you've implemented and leveraging technology that has kind of that step by step that helps that salesperson really not have a fear of like, what do I do next? It kind of tells them what to do. Have you noticed with some of your newer hires that maybe didn't come from the industry? Like, what has been some of the experiences that you've heard from some of your new hires about the overall onboarding experience because of leveraging some of these technologies?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, like we have an incredible talent team that has, we go kind of from the very beginning of our hiring process is we have a team that looks for dynamic new team members that want to be challenged. So the expectations of what our organization is doing and really at the forefront with using technology is we actually set that precedence in the early conversations. So, we can, I think, both agree that, the automotive space is moving at a rapid pace towards like customer experience. And a lot of our team members that are coming on board, one of the first questions, even generation, when you think about, the different generations that are serving our guests in our industry, they ask for sales training. They ask for guidance. They ask for, tell me what success looks like early on so that when I step foot, I'm prepared, equipped, and ready to go. So it all starts really before we even hire people, setting some of those expectations, having these phone screens, using technology to be able to have face-to-face time before they even walk into the dealerships. And then really leaning on our robust training platform that, by the way, Danielle, like this didn't happen overnight, right? Like we've spent the last 15 years developing a training platform that would prepare our new team members for a successful run at the dealership level. And so every brand new team member goes through sales training, and it's about 5 days, about 20 hours of content. And we really focus on culture, we focus on guest experience and leveraging technology to streamline that experience and just be more efficient with our time. So when you do that, you create a baseline of what success looks like. And what's really, really cool is those team members then end up going to the store and they are the influencers of culture. They are the influencers of how to use technology, because they don't know any other way, right? So anytime we try to introduce a new piece of technology, whether it's a CRM, whether it's Upstart in showroom process, whether it's our digital retail tool, or even our video messaging platform, is those are the individuals that's their baseline. Like that's all they know. So when they go into those stores, they become those pioneers and those movers and shakers in the stores that allow for just kind of this like unified process to happen at the store level.
Wow, I love that. I love that you said that they come into the stores and then they are the ones that are like breeding that culture because they don't have any bad habits because that's the first thing that they're learning, which is really, really powerful. I'm curious from your standpoint, if you kind of like look at the industry as a whole and how like the focus on customer experience has evolved. Have you noticed like what customers are expecting from you has changed? And has that altered kind of how you conduct your training? Or have you noticed anything that's changed recently with what customers are expecting from a experience standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. So we obviously have a lot of disruptors in the business that are coming in with an experience that is very different. If you look at some of the EV companies, I mean Tesla, one of the bigger ones, right? One of the
Yeah.
biggest ones, is the way they set what expectations of what guest experience should look like and the ease of doing business is just natural to kind of follow that trend. And when you really think about today's, savvy car buyer, they don't only care about basic information, product information, or if you have the vehicle in stock, because that information is readily available online today. So 60% of the car buying process happens before they even walk into the dealership. So for us is preparing our team for that 40% connection, which is can they effectively communicate with a guest, or what means of communication do they use to share a message, how to build relationships, and how to really be efficient, right? So I think we can both agree that one of the biggest hurdles kind of in the car business is the time it takes to negotiate a car deal and the time it takes to be at the dealership. So if we can mitigate those two things, we're gonna be able to provide a world-class guest experience to our guests that walk in. So the buyer definitely has changed, right? It's not we're not gatekeepers of information any longer. It's that connection piece that happens in the dealership when they're there. So by leveraging the iPad, or even just in the in-store piece, because that really has taken us from allowing our guests to have an A to Z experience that is very transparent. And I think that's what our audience wants, right? That's what our guests want, is they want a transparent experience with somebody that has credibility, or dealer group that has credibility. And we've been able to do that leveraging some of the technology that we have in store and shortening the amount of time they're at the dealership, right? If we can do that, that provides a much better experience for our guests.
Wow. I'm curious, like, what kind of feedback have you been getting from customers? Like, have you seen like a jump maybe in your CSI scores, or have you ever had customers who are like taken aback initially, like, whoa, like this is so transparent. Like, I'm not expecting this. Or maybe they're like caught off guard because, with your team being so open and transparent about what the customer can do and about moving quickly. I'm always just curious because you get to see some of those insights, kind of give our audience a peek behind the hood there. Like, what are people say? Like, what are these customers saying? Like, are they
Yeah.
loving it? Like, are they surprised? What's going on?
I mean, that's a fair question. We've used Upstart for the past for we launched it in 2020, right? So in the beginning, it was an adoption challenge on our end to be able to scale that at our organization. Today, we have close to 200 product specialists that obviously serve our guests. And in the beginning, it was like, this is the first time I'm seeing an in-store check-in process like that, other than going to an Apple store or going into so when you're thinking about how people experience and consume in today's environment, is you don't expect that at a car dealership. So for us to be able to implement that as a part of the process, our guests, first of all, are like, what are you guys doing? So, like, this is new. Like, why are we using the iPad? Why are we using the tablet? But this is something that is not new to them, because they see it at all of these different parts of their life where they consume goods. It's like, that's just kind of where we're going. So it's a familiar feeling, which then gives them a little bit more confidence. I'll add one more piece to that, because when you actually present ownership options to a guest on technology, what we've noticed is that the transparency piece of using technology minimizes a little bit of the sales resistance, because they look at this as, this is the technology that's telling me that real-time ownership options are being sent to an iPad. It's no longer, handwritten, which is kind of the expectation that we have in the business. It's just like, it's right there. So you have this trust that you build with a guest. So in the very, very beginning stages, when we launched the in-store piece, we started to see that guests actually negotiated less.
Mm.
They didn't go back and forth, because there's this technology that allowed them to feel a lot more comfortable and confident in the information that they were receiving. I mean, I believe everything I see on the internet. So, like,
Yeah.
technology, right?
It's a good point, because it's like customers, when they're on Amazon, they don't think about like, oh, let me negotiate this price and go back and forth with somebody trying to sell me something. Like, no, what you see is what you get. And it's so true that when you see something presented on a tablet or an iPad and it's in black and white, it's in front of your face, and it's literally given to you, you're just like, okay. So the lack of like needing to push back is totally there. But I want to take it a step back and kind of get you to give our audience some tips here. So a lot of the dealers, are people listening to this podcast, maybe are thinking about implementing a new technology at their dealership, and they want to make sure that this rollout is a success. So maybe can you speak to what are some of the challenges that they may have to prepare for, and what are some tips that they could leverage to make sure that when rolling out a new technology, whether it be in DR or in, chat, or a number of different things, like, or, CRM, like you guys are experiencing now. What can they, prepare for to make sure that that rollout is a success coming from your standpoint?
Sure. I mean, and to be fair, we lead our area in just technological advances when it comes to obviously being in an automotive space at the dealership level. And it's not an easy feat. Like, I can't sit here and tell you like, wow, we have a new CRM, let's implement it and let's go. There's definitely a lot of conversations that happen before that. So for us, really, it's a two-prong approach. The
Okay.
first thing is when you hire new team members, is you want to make sure you set the expectation or a standard of what our organization is about and what we want to do and how we want to move forward. And there's a lot of people that self-select out, right? If you've been in the car business for a very long time and you have tenure in the car business, you might not want to have that heavy lift of adopting a new process, adopting new technology, which would then make it difficult for that person to succeed, because those are the tools that we use today. So it really starts at the very beginning, is making sure that you have honest conversation about the expectations of what your organization is currently doing and what the standard is. The other piece is, because the business is changing faster than ever, there's a lot more technology that is being introduced quicker. So having a team, an agile team, and really truly the buy-in from the top. And when I say the top, I'm talking about the leaders within the store. There's not one person that can make a decision around this is the way we're going to do business. For us, what allowed us to be successful is we take the leaders in the stores, who, by the way, are pretty comfortable not knowing all the answers. And because they don't know all the answers to all these things, is they end up asking better questions. So when they ask better questions, it allows us to formulate a game plan that makes sense and is going to be supported by the people that really are going to be held accountable at the store level. So having conversations with our GMs, having conversations with our GSMs before we launch anything, before we even introduce an idea to the product specialists or people that are going to be using the technology, is we have conversations, we have layers of conversations to make sure that we're on the right path, that this is the right message, that this is the right why. So when they're part of that initial conversation, what happens is they then take ownership of that. So when we launch anything, whether it's, our CRM, our video messaging platform, or even using Upstart in the store, in our dealerships, is you have the buy-in from those leaders that are then being held accountable to make sure that that process happens at the store level. So it's not an easy feat. It's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of clarity. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of collaboration before we even go live with anything that we do.
I love that you spoke on that, because that is such a critical piece that from our perspective, we see a lot of dealers missing. We see a lot of, I got really excited when I was at a conference. I saw a product that I really think is going to be great. I purchased this product. Awesome. And then I'm rolling it out without having that communication between the person who's deciding on it and the end user who's going to be utilizing it, and the managers who are going to be holding that end user accountable. So I love the fact that you mentioned that you're incorporating those key, you said, leaders in the store who are going to ask a lot of the questions that maybe somebody else isn't thinking about, to ensure that if we're going to decide on this, everybody's on board and a part of it. I love that, because the buy-in is there. So it's like, it's strong. It's not going to break, because from the top down, everybody's on the same page. That's so powerful. I love that you said that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of layers to that too, because the other piece is, when we do launch this technology, is we want to make sure that it is also successful. And that it serves our team in a way where they can be more efficient, that they can provide a world-class guest experience. So, them being a part of that initial conversation definitely drives a lot of the results for us.
I'll ask this too, because I know that a lot of people don't tend to focus on this, but like, what do the feedback loops look like when something is being rolled out and maybe there is feedback or a tweak that needs to be made, or, hey, like, maybe we should try it this way. Like, what does that look like for you guys, at the store level, when there is valid feedback? I know sometimes feedback is looked at as like maybe complaining or excuses, but sometimes it's actually a lot of valid feedback when, rolling something out and being able to pivot and make adjustments.
As an organization, you have to be flexible, right? And when we get feedback and we solicit it and we have focus groups that really give us an insight to what it is like to walk a day in your shoes and actually use this on a daily basis. So we definitely want to make sure that they feel safe and they feel comfortable. So a lot of the times when we launch anything is we have focus groups of individual users within the dealerships. And we're fortunate enough to have a training center at one of our locations where we can bring 20, 30, 40 people into one location and really have an honest conversation. What are some of the speed bumps that we're experiencing? How can we help mitigate? So it's always for us, our leadership team has always made it very easy for us to communicate our feelings, communicate our thoughts, communicate our input. So our organization in general has no problem giving us feedback. It's just making sure that we do something with it, and that's where the piece is, right? Being able to create a safe space for them to come and say, "Hey, this isn't working," and we've made a ton of changes. Especially in the beginning stages of even just when we think about Upstart, right? When in the beginning stages, we were one of the first dealerships in California to launch this. There was a lot of feedback that we got from our teams that we shared with your team to say, hey, this is just really not how this plays out in the dealership setting. Can we make a pivot here and there? So because we take that feedback and actually do something with it, you start to build trust. You start to build trust with the team, and it opens up a door for them to really give you. And truly, I mean, these individuals are the ones that are using this technology day in and day out, so they know the efficiencies or inefficiencies that a product has. So we've created that safe space for them to share that with us for sure.
No, that's awesome. It's super important. And it's important having a partner that's willing to hear that feedback, make adjustments, make tweaks, and obviously evolve with you. I'm curious from your standpoint, as you look at like the future of the automotive industry and training as a whole, like where do you kind of see yourself and DGDG kind of evolving over the next couple of years when it comes to training? Like, do you have any like things that you see coming that you're really excited about?
Yeah. I mean, have you met Jeremy Beaver? I mean, he sees 5, 10 years ahead, right? So we're so fortunate to have a visionary as a leader to be able to share kind of business and industry insights so that we can be ahead of the game. But I've been in the business for 20 years. The first 10 years, it's like slow rolling changes of the, how we consume. Now we're on this expedited track where things are changing so fast, so quickly. There's so many advances in the industry that, I think a part of the success is making sure that you have an agile team before you even launch anything. So this is a constant, when we talk about training within DGDG, this is 15 years in the making, which is sharing with the teams, what is important, what the vision is for the organization, and having everybody on board. So when those advances come, they're just a little bit easier to adapt to it, to change, to accept some of the nuances of what, the different ways of looking at the business. And when it comes to our organization specifically, our continuous improvement and development and always getting better is at the forefront of everything. So we know that we need to get better at different things so that we can move with the business. So we definitely have a growth mindset as an organization. And a part of that is also identifying some players that, are the change in the company, meaning we want to socialize wins. So when you think about technology, introducing anything is the small wins, the praise, the public announcements of, you're doing so great using this technology, a high five on this. When you do that, it creates this standard of excellence, and it allows people to grow together. So for us is we want to make sure that even the silent leaders that are making the change in the organizations at the store level, that we acknowledge them and we give them the kudos. And that's what allows us to continue to implement new processes, new technology. And I mean, when you think about just training, like AI, like it's here. Whether you like it or not, it's here. So how do you leverage some of the things that are happening out there that we can bring into our world so that we could be more efficient with our time when we create training? So we're using AI to do instructional videos on how to use technology, which allows us more free time to have more coaching and mentoring with the stores. And we leverage technology to be able to help us create training courses and modules for our teams to be able to, put on our LMS, and for them to be able to take just have flexibility in learning and training. So technology's here. It's not going away. We've got disruptors in the business that have set a precedence of what a world-class guest experience should look like. So we're on that train, Danielle.
You really are. And it's powerful. It's moving fast. I got excited because, I was just thinking about all the time you're going to be saving with the, AI handling a lot of the videos and the onboarding, the modules. I'm sure there was a time where you were having to do it all manually, and it is a lot of work to create things from scratch. I know, because we do that a lot on our side here. And now we're beginning to leverage a lot of the technology as well. But no, it's really powerful to see where we're going and how you're leveraging it. But well, we like to do a little segment on this podcast where we give our guests a chance to shout out a dealer that inspires them, whether it be because of the people they have at their store, or the processes they've implemented, or the technology. So I'm curious, looking at your entire dealer group, is there a specific dealer in your group that you want to shout out because of the way that they are doing things, and give them some face time?
Oh my gosh. I can't just pick one, but I would say that today, if I look at kind of where we are today and some of the processes, and the more technology you have, the more processes you have in place, I want to give a kudos to our Capital Chevy dealership. They have an absolutely incredible team. It's one of our larger stores, and the accountability for some of the things that need to happen at that store level is just, we have an incredible leadership team. We have an incredible sales team, and they have an open mindset to learn. So that entire team, when you think about training, their attendance level is off the charts. You're talking about 97% attendance to all the training for that store. You have leadership that comes into training so that they can align with the message that we're sending to our sales team, so that they can then support them at the store level. So Cap Chevy, you're the store of the week.
They're getting all the kudos. I'm super glad that you shouted them out, because that says a lot with the amount of stores you have and how progressive you guys are for them to be the one picked. Like, they're doing a great job. So I'm super excited that you picked them. But as before we close, I kind of want to hear from you. We talked about kind of the future from a training standpoint, but as you look at the auto industry as a whole, do you have any bold predictions for 2024? Let's just look at this year of kind of what is to come with auto this year from your perspective.
I think it's going to be slow and steady. We've had some great years, but like, if you think about 2020 to 2023, there's been some peaks and valleys, and it was ebbs and flows. But going into 2024, like, I'm confident it's going to be a solid year. I think a lot of technology is going to be at the forefront of how we are efficient with our time. So, first quarter of the year, we're almost at the tail end of the first quarter. So we're going to start to see consumer confidence go up towards the end of the year. We're going to kind of, continue to focus on our teams to make sure that they are prepared for what happens next. But our team's been through a lot, right? We've had some incredible wins as a dealership, as a dealer group. And then obviously we've had some challenges post-COVID. So this year, I think it's going to be slow and steady. The predictions, if you look at some of the forecasting, there's a lot of cars out there. So being able to, maybe slow down in those pockets and those moments where it is we have a little bit less opportunities to focus back on your teams to make sure that they are prepared for the next run, is really going to be the strategy for us. And hopefully we close out this year with a bang.
Well, I think you will. I'm super excited for you guys, and we're excited to be partnered with you. Thank you so much, Elvira, for sharing your amazing tips and tricks over this, conversation. It was super, super valuable, and we appreciate you for being on. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Danielle. Thanks for having me.